Welcome to another The One Ring RPG video. I'm going to take some time this evening just to showcase some of the art in Moria Through the Doors of Durin. So yeah, just join me for this video as we just take a closer look. So the style that the One Ring Second Edition I would say is known for is this almost speed paint sort of approach where you can see the strokes, you can see the grain, and it adds texture and character to each piece. So they're quite suggestive, almost minimalism. Yeah, and it's great to see that they naturally have kept that style going throughout their books. And then combined with that, then they've got, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but if anyone's not, how can I say, up to date or clued in with how the One Ring is, this is what it looks like. You've got those combinations of sort of speed paint art pieces in between, usually as chapter headings. And then you've got these beautiful illustrations. And even the illustrations have, you can see the hatch lines. So it's got this sort of rustic look to it. So this, I would say both, even though the speed paint feels a bit more modern, it's done in a way that feels traditional. It almost feels like an impressionist's painting, and where the illustrations, I would say, lean a bit more towards traditional, even though they're probably done digitally. So yeah, you can see, once again, as I mentioned earlier, they use these for sort of chapter spreads, and even like how the planks are done. Those are just broad strokes that suggest scaffolding or planks or bridges. And then there's definitely detail added, but it's that great balance of the two, and it helps guide the eye to what they want you to look at. Just sort of loose sort of texture to suggest the shape of the building, but then they'll go into finer detail for where they want you to look. And just an immense talent when it comes to atmosphere and color theory. So yeah, a treat to look at. I'll just comment on this, but yeah, throughout the One Ring Second Edition, their layout is stunning. Actually, some of the best layout I've seen. I just love their format, their graphic design on everything. It's clean and sharp, but similar to their chapter layouts and their illustrations, it has a traditional feel to it. And yeah, they put enough work that even these sort of ornaments on the side are not the same ornaments all the time. So for this chapter, you'll see those are the ornaments, but later on, oh wait, actually, this book might actually have all the same order. Oh, there we go. I thought as much. I know in previous books the sort of side ornaments changed with the chapters, so that seems to be the case here too. It's truly a treat. So it's sort of plenty to look at, and even how they do their sort of iconography. You can see it has that sort of lifted ink, sort of fade, grain on things. It makes things look really authentic. You can see there's lighter patches and darker patches, as if done with real ink or a real stamp. So immense quality to detail or attention to detail on everything, from the content of the book to the art and the layout. Now they do have different artists working on the book, but I would say for the most part the art harmonizes quite well, especially with the illustrations. They don't, none of them really feel divorced from the other. They pair quite well. Now, Jan Pospisil doesn't seem to be listed in the credits, But his style is something that I gravitate towards, and I would say most of the art in the One Ring second edition kind of matches that style really well. But once again, you can just see the loose gestural texture markings and then the finer detail. And it just gives things like a candid feel. I like as well that with their pencil sketches, there's a sense of general shading. They don't rely on just basic cross hatching. There's just general shading, general tone on it. I really admire that. It's done really well. It's almost as if they like there's some kind of like watercolor wash or charcoal smearing happening. Yeah, really, really cool. But it comes across like pencil work. It doesn't look inked. It just looks like really, really detailed pencil work, but not stiff, not rigid, because it has those moments where it doesn't take itself too seriously and it just suggests things. And I would say similar to even the Lord of the Rings books, they've just got these pieces very, very reminiscent sort of like Alan Lee and John Howe, where they don't put a lot of emphasis on the characters as much. It might actually be an Alan Lee thing. It is actually an Alan Lee thing where these environments are more the character, and it's setting the tone and the mood and the atmosphere, and allowing the reader to attribute detail to the characters themselves, sort of avoiding over detailing the character, which is phenomenal for role playing, because at the end of the day, if you over specify what an NPC or a patron or an enemy looks like, then you kind of need to stay true to that throughout your campaign. Where if you're just suggesting it, there's freedom to sort of express things as you go, and you're not tied down to a specific any specifics. Here's another prime example of these chapter double spreads. It looks like so effortless as these sort of fire particles or dust particles and debris is literally just comes across like, splatters, ink splattered on the page. It just creates a sense of ease that when you're looking at it, it looks like the art was done effortlessly, and it's very suggestive. But yet, the whole story is there, and the colors there, and the atmosphere is there. Phenomenal work, masterful. Just sharing some of the pencil work. Yeah, remaining true to the core rulebook. They've been able to maintain the look and feel throughout their additional supplements. And yeah, just how great is that? Just for imagery, for Moria. Actually giving us more to see than the films did. This sort of sets the tone for the halls in Moria. Really great illustration. Sort of like a beautiful contribution to the Tolkien's work as a whole. That we've got this image of Moria. And I would say very seldom, if ever, I look at a piece thinking, it doesn't hold up. I feel like I can trust. Like we're in good hands with each piece. There's no sort of nervousness or, don't have to kind of look the other way or turn a blind eye, or each piece just holds up. So while I'm talking about the art, here's the credits. Now, I got a feeling that Alvaro Tapia, I don't know if he's the one that's doing these double spreads. I've got a feeling he is. That name sticks out, but just look at this. That's just phenomenal. Guy's got a gift for setting moods and tones. It's almost like just one large color palette, but there's an environment there, there's a character there, and there's a story. It says your orcs of Moria. Looks like the Goblin King. It's obviously a big orc, but then again, goblins and orcs are described as, correct me if I'm wrong, but interchangeable. Sort of a name that they were using for both. A goblin is an orc, and an orc is a goblin, but yeah, that's where my knowledge of the Tolkien gets a bit blurry sometimes, where I still get that confused, but I remember, I think in The Hobbit they referred more to goblins, and then in Lord of the Rings, the terminology started changing to orcs, but they're sort of the same thing. So yeah, I'd love to see here in the comments, am I right? Goblins and orcs are the same thing? Maybe goblins are smaller orcs? That's kind of how I think of them. In my previous video I was saying that they kind of touched on clans, factions in this. So within Moria there's clans and factions. Super cool. Similar to Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. It's such an iconic piece. Might be one of my favorite drawings in the book. Just seeing this crazy slave dwarf. And here we've got Durin's Bane. Everything reads so clear, even though the characters suggested all the symbology and the silhouettes. Everything's just, you know what you're looking at. It's great. Now I did touch on that there are they allude to sort of cults and religions of the orcs in this book. They don't actually go into detail from what I can see, but they do suggest which factions are more of like these sort of cult zealots and which ones do sacrifices and stuff. So I appreciate they didn't go too much in detail. Because yeah, I would say it almost would detract from Tolkien's tone, because he also I would say didn't go into immense detail about, how dark the orcs were. He set the tone and he explained things, but I would say other writers would divulge far more. It's cool to see them coming up with some unique creatures. I don't believe marrow eaters is something that's in Tolkien lore, but they've managed to create, and I believe in throughout the One Ring they've added some of their own creatures that can easily exist in the One Ring, in Middle Earth. Yeah, really, really cool. So I might stop jabbering. I might not, but just share some more of the art. This page is mainly black, with just a hint of sort of blues and greys coming through, some warmer tones. Very confident to go ahead and do that. It definitely sort of helps you understand how dark it can be in Moria when unlit. Now this is probably I don't know if it's the most shaded picture I've seen in their books, but this one starts leaning towards almost a painting. You can see the background comes across still as a sketch. It still has that sketch feel, but the most shaded I think I've seen any of the drawings. Yeah, their locations have a cool style too. They're clear and crisp. They got some colors, but the colors are sort of washed. They're a little bit desaturated, remaining true to just that authentic feel, without being too dull and bland. You can see some extreme shading again, but very cool. It's like pencil and Copic marker, or pencil and watercolor, or pencil and charcoal. And I believe this stuff's done digitally. Some of that stuff is done traditionally. Alright, we've gone past the 10-minute mark, so I'll probably just showcase some of the top pieces for me. And I'm gonna have to skip a few. Alright, I've skipped 7 pictures, but chose to stop at this one. Statue. Is it a statue? Because it looks like a statue that's being broken by like these roots and vines and stuff, but inside's a skull. So what's happening there? This thing's called I think it's called a bloodline. Yeah. Requires close to reading, but I don't recall. I think it is a statue. I've skipped 5 images and here's the next one. I really like the inclusion of this centipede looking thing, because it's not what I would imagine in Middle Earth as my default sort of thought, but it absolutely fits. And it's great to sort of expand our visual or mental library of what the kind of creatures are in Middle Earth, especially like in underground and in forests and deserts and stuff. Yeah, I skipped like 7 or 8 images. I stopped in this one. That was pretty cool. With this character. Very cool looking character. Clearly tiny. Alright, I've skipped 9 images and settled on this one. Just because he looks freaky. He looks clumsy. Like typical zombie fashion. It looks like he's wobbling on his legs forward. I really dig that pose. It's like his hips and his neck, and he's literally struggling to stay upright, but he's moving on forward. Yeah, very cool picture. I skipped 15 images. Those include locations too. Stopped on this one. The lakes below, I believe this section is called, yeah. Makes you think of that sort of creature in the waters as they were entering Moria, but this is trippy. It's got hands and claws at the end of the tentacles. I'll stop on this one. This actually might be the last image in the book. I like this one because they're actually showing dwarven women, and it's pretty cool how they depicted. They still look very feminine, but you know, clearly you got their sideburn sort of hair growth happening there. How's that kid? What cool, buddy. Bit cute. Yeah, I wish other sort of creative directions, you know, when they depict dwarven women, they would have gone this route. Yeah, I prefer that. But that works too, man. But they're not trying to create these long sort of beards. A lot of their hair is just sort of on the sides, so you can clearly discern the difference in their facial features. Yeah, you can just clearly see the men from the women, even though they're dwarves. This might be my favorite dwarven woman representation. Pay attention, Rings of Power. Alright, well, I actually turned to the back of the book and realized I got a map with this. So, I got a Moria map. Thanks, Freelig. Nice addition. I have a physical map of that for when adventuring in Moria. Yep, thanks for joining me. I'm not sure how many of you are such big fan arts as I am, but yeah, it was fun just to kind of take a sneak peek into the art of Moria. Alright, thanks for joining me. Take care.